Hello and welcome back to the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. I'm Isaiah. I'm coming to you from Nashville, and I'm here to break down this weekend's action at Dover Motor Speedway. So we were 3 in a row with outright winners heading into last weekend's race at Talladega, and I know that I only touted 3 guys in the video last week. I touted, I think, Keselowski, Buescher, and Harrison Burton. Burton was looking really good for a while there until he got wrecked, but Odd Shopper Insider Access users got the full card, and we had both Bubba Wallace and Ryan Blaney on it. So if you watch the race, you know that Bubba and Blaney got into a little bit of trouble at the end of the race on the last lap when they were running first and second, allowing Kyle Busch to steal the win. So we almost made it 4 in a row, but not quite. However, it's an opportunity to start a new streak. I'm looking forward to it. This weekend's race at Dover should be good to us. We're going to talk a little bit about the race preview. I'm going to talk about Prize Picks, our new sponsor. I'm going to go through the picks. We're going to talk about Odd Shopper Insider Access. We have a lot to get to, so let's dive in. Alrighty, so this is the Wurth 400. We're at Dover Motor Speedway, which is a 1-mile banked oval. There are no true comparators to this track at this point in the year. We've run at a couple short tracks in Richmond, in Phoenix, and Martinsville, but all of those tracks are pretty flat. They don't have the banking that Dover does. There's a reason why NASCAR can't run the rain package at Dover, but it can at those 3 tracks, and that's banking. So that means that 1, we're going to look at a high-speed intermediate, and 2, we're going to look at a short banked track that is just not concrete, if you get what I'm saying. That means we're going to be talking about Las Vegas, and we're going to be talking about Bristol Dirt. Those are going to be our 2 comparators for this event, and neither of them are perfect. This is highly approximative. This is my best guess. I'm eyeballing this. That means that I would recommend limiting your outright card because I am also limiting my exposure to my own outright card because I just don't have the raw numbers that I would hope to have at this point in the year for this race. The other thing to note is that there is rain in the forecast almost all weekend. What does that mean? It means that qualifying will probably not happen. That means the starting order will probably be set by the algorithm, and that will affect some of our plays, and we'll get into that a little later on. But before we get into the picks, let's talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a fantastic site for NASCAR bettors and NASCAR enthusiasts alike. It lets you get action on more than just the outright winner and more than just where a driver finishes. Their fantasy score metric lets you go over or under a certain amount that counts things like fastest laps, stage wins, position differential, and, of course, where a driver ends up actually finishing the race. So you do still get action on things like if a driver wins, but there are a little bit more moving parts to it to make it a lot more entertaining. There's also the key thing that they just announced a partnership with NASCAR Prize Picks did, which means you can expect a lot more contests and other things like that moving forward. It's a really great time to get it on the ground level. And right now you can get your first deposit matched up to $100 with the promo code in the below that you can find below. Perfect. So let me pull up the odds board and we'll get into the picks. I know that I've talked a lot about this man all season, but I'm not going to stop talking about him now. Kyle Larson. He was the best performer in our Vegas and Bristol Dirt metric. He was one of 2 drivers with a top 8 driver rating in both events. Why does having a top 8 driver rating in both events matter? Well, in 2022 at Dover, 4 of the top 8 drivers by driver rating also ranked top 8 at those 2 tracks. So that's a really important thing that only 2 guys have done it. Last year's winner, Chase Elliott, came from that 8 driver set. So it's actually useful for predicting the winner of the race and who has a good chance to dominate. Larson almost won here after a dominant performance back in 2021, but he ended up losing out to Bowman very late in the race. He didn't do so great here in 2022, but I'm expecting a bounce-back showing. He generally underperformed in 2022 anyway. While the odds on this market aren't great at 5-1, I still think there's value here. Personally, Insider Access users got it at 6-1. That's where I got it too. That was available at BetMGM, but BetMGM has taken so much action on Larson that they've dropped the number to 9-2 or plus 450 from plus 600. That is quite significant if if BetMGM sees so much sharp action on a line that they feel they need to drop it by that much before qualifying even gets rained out. I will note that because there is rain in the forecast, qualifying should get rained out, which means Larson will probably end up starting mid-pack. They might readjust this number to be a bit more generous when that happens. So I might not spring on the 5-1. I might wait to see if you can get the 6-1 or the 7-1 later in the week. I wanted to pounce on the 6-1 just because I didn't know, A, if they were going to actually rain out qualifying, or B, whether I was going to be able to get that number later in the week. But that might be a note to have, considering that we only have a 5-1 available now. Next, our second driver. We're going to target Christopher Bell. So we're going to ignore Byron and Elliott, and we're going to go right to Christopher Bell. Why? Well, he was the second driver with a top 8 driver rating at both Vegas and Bristol Dirt. He didn't have the most impressive run at Vegas, but he still stayed up front for the entire race. I think in the top 5 or so. And he had a fantastic run at Bristol Dirt where he scored the win. And I think he led the most laps. Well, I would have personally said Kyle Larson should have won that race. Ryan Preece decided to take him out, so he didn't. But it's encouraging that Larson ran well because we also have action on him too. I will note that Christopher Bell hadn't really put together any impressive Cup Series runs here at Dover until his P4 finish last year. I think he had a bunch of non-top 20 finishes before that. But you should look at his Xfinity Series resume if that concerns you. He won here twice in that series. He finished 4th in his first, or at least a top 10. I forget exactly where it was. But he scored at least a top 10 in his first Xfinity Series start at Dover. And he won 2 of the races in pretty dominant fashion with 50-plus laps led. So I think that he's shown enough in Xfinity for me to trust him on the outright markets in the Cup Series. Here, he is 9-1 at Bet365, but you can still get the 10-1 at BetMGM, which is where I lock that in. That is where Insider Access users lock that in. That number will definitely disappear before qualifying because, as the algorithm suggests, Bell would start this race in second should qualifying get rained out. So do not expect the 10-1 to be on the board come Sunday or when this race eventually gets run, which honestly could be on Monday. Who knows at this point? The weather does not look agreeable. Before we get into our long shot, because as you know, we always have to have a long shot, I want to talk a bit about OddsShopper Insider Access. I've obviously alluded to it a little bit during this video, but it's the only way you can gain access to my full NASCAR betting card. And it allows you to gain access to other betting experts. So it's not just my NASCAR stuff. It's Lindy's NBA and MLB. It's Aton's, all sorts of his stuff. It's Ben Ross's stuff. It's more than just me over there. You get picks in real time, which helps you get the best numbers, like the 10-1 we're talking about now, and the 6-1 with Larson. Plus, you get perks like live bets, office hours, and you get access to my betting models. You can even get your first week of Insider Access for 50% off, and after that, it's just $19.95. So what I recommend you do is you sign up for your first week, you place our bets, you make that money, and then use that money to pay for your future weeks of membership. I think it's a great deal. It's a blast. You get to shoot the shit with us in live in real time in the Discord. It's a lot of fun. Let me talk about our longest long shot of the card, though, now that we're done with our Insider Access pitch. So the Discord has a 5-driver card, and my online article that you can read has another long shot at 40-1, who I will talk. He's not at 40-1 over here at Bet365. In fact, he is quite a bit shorter. But our longest long shot of the week. So there's one more driver that you only get if you're on Insider Access. This is the 4th driver on the card. It is going to be Austin Cindric at 100-1. So why are we targeting Austin Cindric at 100-1? Those odds are quite long. Well, number one, Austin Cindric's teammates are Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. They are odds of 20-1. So you're getting a guy in very comparable equipment at a much longer price. That's usually a great sign. However, it's worth noting that Team Penske unloaded terribly here at Dover last season. I don't think they could stay on the lead lap in that race. They finished pretty much outside of the top 20, if not the top 25. They did not have a good race. However, there's no way this organization did not make some serious adjustments in the offseason after such an embarrassing performance. Team Penske, well, I mean, I guess I'm kind of biased. You see the flag back there. Takes itself a little bit more seriously than that. I don't think that there's a chance they unload nearly as terribly as they did here last year. I don't think it makes sense for any Team Penske driver to have a number at 100-1 or longer. Now, it's not just because of the outrageous price that we're backing Cindric. The weather certainly helps. He could pull a contrarian pit strategy if it looks like the end of the race is going to get rained out, allowing him to get a win that he may not fully deserve, but one that his crew chief certainly deserves credit for. But we're also backing this number because he has a solid resume here from his time in the Xfinity Series. He made 7 starts in the series at this track, and he had 7 top 10 finishes. He never once finished worse than 9th. He also scored 4 top 3 finishes and a win. And that's against relatively solid competition at that era in the Xfinity Series. I think most of the drivers from that era have since graduated a cup, like Christopher Bell, who we talked about a little bit earlier, and Cole Custer, who has since regressed substantially and found his way back to the Xfinity Series, where he hasn't looked quite nearly as good as he did when he was younger. So that's tough for him. But Austin Cindric, 100-1. This price is outrageous. I think that's a fantastic deal. I don't think that Cindric will fare that well in the qualifying algorithm, but I still think the 100-1 is a great, fantastic deal. I'm not going to pass that number up, given what he has shown here in the Xfinity Series. Alrighty, let me pull this odds board out of here. so we can go through our recap. So, who are our 3 outrights this week? Number 1, Kyle Larson, 5-1 at Bet365, or if you're lucky and you were in insider access, you got this at 6-1. Next, Christopher Bell, 10-1 at BetMGM. He will be starting this race in second if qualifying gets rained out. Do not expect that number to last very long. Number 3, Austin Cindric at 100-1 at Bet365. That price is outrageous. It is far too long for any Team Penske driver. And yes, I acknowledge my biases, but still too good of a deal to pass up. And that's going to do it for our video this week. Please like and subscribe if you found this content useful, and especially if I've been making you money earlier in the season. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next week, and let's make some money in the meantime.